Prioritize protein at every meal along with eating full-fat dairy. Those are just two of the recommendations in the new dietary guidelines released by the Trump administration. I'm Clinton Griffiths. The administration, including the Secretary of USDA, announcing those recommendations on Wednesday, calling for Americans to avoid highly processed foods and get back to eating what it calls real food. Ag Michelle Rook listening in on the announcement. Michelle, the recommendations impact just about every food staple that farmers grow or raise.
Right, Clinton, the USDA and HHS secretaries say this is the most sweeping change in the dietary guidelines in history. The new recommendations emphasize nutrient-dense foods at every meal and abandoning ultra-high processed foods. So these guidelines will benefit every sector of U.S. agriculture. The new dietary guidelines for 2025 through 2030 turn the food guide pyramid upside down. USDA Secretary Brooke Rollins says at the core is whole nutrient-dense foods at every meal.
That means more protein, more dairy, more healthy fats, more whole grains, more fruits and vegetables, whether they are fresh, frozen, canned, or dried.
Rollins says at long last, USDA is realigning the food system to support American farmers, ranchers, and companies that produce real food.
This pivot also leans into the abundant, affordable, and healthy food supply already available from America's incredible farmers and ranchers. By making milk, raising cattle, and growing wholesome fruits, vegetables, and grains, they hold the key to solving our national health crisis.
And for American farmers and ranchers, this is welcome news.
So this is very positive for beef. I think this is advice that, frankly, is not only scientifically sound, but is also just very common sense and sort of makes sense and resonates with a lot of Americans and how they're trying to feed their families.
She says the guidance doubles the recommended amount of daily protein intake in the diet.
Previously, it was 0.8 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight per day. That was the recommendation. Under the new updated guidelines out today, that recommendation increases to 1.2 to 1.6 grams per kilogram of body weight.
The dietary guidelines also sharply reduce refined carbohydrates and limit highly processed foods, added sugars, and artificial additives. According to HHS Secretary Kennedy, the DGA's return consumers to the basics.
Whole grains outperform refined carbohydrates. Added sugars, especially sugar-sweetened beverages, drive metabolic disease, and today our government declares war on added sugar. Highly processed foods loaded with additives, added sugar, and excess salt damage health and should be avoided.
Kennedy says the guidelines will govern the USDA school lunch program, SNAP, VA, and military meals. He adds 60 to 70% of calories consumed by American kids come from ultra-processed foods.
Today begins the work of aligning those programs with affordable, whole, nutrient-dense food.
He says this move will lower the cost of health care as nearly 90% of spending goes towards treating chronic disease, which is linked to diet and lifestyle. I'm Michelle Rook reporting for Ag Day.